Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Vallen, and this is SevTech Ages. Nope, no doots today. Today, we're going to the Tree of Horrors, but before then I need to get myself a little bit prepared. I've been doing a little bit of preparation already, but I figured I would share the rest of it for you. My inventory, as usual, beginning of an episode, is fairly full. So I've also, in preparation, melted up a whole bunch of gold. I've got, hopefully, the proper amount in here. I've got, I think it's like 20. I've got 16 in here, plus another, like, 4, like 3 ready to melt, and 1 more in here, which I'm going to be making a whole bunch of casts. I also took my casting table that I had over here, and I just broke out one of the casting channels that I had. And I'm planning on just kind of, you know, working with this little mini smeltery in the meantime, because a lot of Tinker stuff actually works in the Betweenlands, as well as any non-vanilla foods. So therefore, previously I have been eating, let's see if I have any in here. No, I don't. I actually already emptied it out. I've been eating watermelons for my fruit, just because it was cheap and easy, and instead I opted for grapes. So, which I will cover those actually in a moment. I will show you why the grapes are working out for me specifically. But I also plopped down in the casting table here. Let's see, what do I have? Oh, there we go. One of these, which actually, now that I think about it, that was a poor choice. Let's drop this down here and put that back. But I've got some parts in my inventory. Let me show you what I've got going on here. If I choose the tool station, my current Cactus Broadsword is good, right? I've already shown you guys it works well in combination with my shield, my battle sign rather. But I can improve this further just by reversing some of the stuff. I should have put the handle as a bone, which, as you see, increases the durability considerably. But then we lose the, what is it, the spiky version in there. So then if I replace the handle, it makes the sword look cooler, and it brings the spiky back. So therefore, I got my Cactus Broadsword. So I just put it together in the wrong order, that's all. It's better to have it with a bone handle in this case. Just so I can up the damage, because the damage of the weapon is actually the most important part on this. Yes, I could put some bronze parts on there or something like that just to increase the durability, but I'm not as bothered. This, in this case, though, it is, you know, another 100 or so durability on just the sword itself. Doesn't really help the shield, which is actually what takes most of the damage, because I'm blocking with it all the time. But it's still going to be better. Now, I do have tons of these things here, and I plan on making like about 8 sharpened kits for bronze, because I'm going to make a set of bronze tinker tools. And I've got plenty of bronze, just from the past, like I've got another stack here and stuff. So that's what I was planning on using. But I'm going to be first making a whole bunch of casts, which I will be putting into a chest over there for now. But the idea in this case is that I just take each of these, put them on there, pour them through, and I just start dumping these in my other chest for now. And it's going to just burn up all of these different stone pieces. And I'm using gold in this case just because it's going to be simpler and I want something more permanent. I could use clay and therefore, you know, just kind of go with something a little bit more temporary. But I plan on having these things stick around because I figure, you know what? Why not? I've got a bunch of gold. I'm not using it for much of anything else right now, and therefore I can get this done. So I'm just going to make all these casts, and I'll be back in a moment. All right, so I'm down to my last 4 ingots. I have a stone nugget that I made in the previous episode, and now I have a nugget cast because of that. And speaking of things that are also stone and can be used to make casts, I'm in fact, oh, there we go. Got the casting and nugget in achieve. I have, where is it? On the table here. We've got a stone bucket, just 3 cobblestone, because if you look up a bucket in your JEI here, the recipe for it is to actually pour it into a bucket cast, which then you need a stone bucket for. So that's kind of the idea with that one. Put this down, pour my last couple ingots of gold in here, making that into a nice cast as well. There we go. And I can now actually make myself a real-life bucket, which I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to toss in some copper, because that's not going to combine with the iron that I have in here. No worries if it did. And I'm going to cast up 3 binding casts, 3 tool rods, 2 shovel heads. No, actually it's going to take 1 shovel head costs, if you look here, material cost 2. Any of the casts will tell you the material cost. So an axe head, a pickaxe head, 8 sharpening kits, and of course a bow limb, because the bow that I currently am using, the Bank Heist bow, is not actually going to work at full capacity in the Betweenlands. It'll work at a very reduced capacity, and so therefore I'm planning on making something temporary at the very least. There we go. We now have our 3 iron that I can pour out into a bucket. Just wait for that to cool, and I now have my first reusable bucket. Oh, it's a glorious thing. Oh, it's so glorious. That makes me very happy. Very happy indeed. Let's put this stuff away because I'm not going to really need those in the meantime. And I already have my copper melting. So I'm just going to dump the rest of this bronze in here so that that can start melting up. And I can start putting my cast in here and make a bunch of these tool parts. Reason being is the copper for a binding is glorious. It adds an experience. It's well established, which as you use it, whether it be for damage or for mining or whatever, it will it will give you extra XP. So I could be mining stone with a pick, and I will gain XP from that. So that's really, really good. And in the meantime, you can already see that I've got some bronze is melting up really nicely. I'm just going to put this one away, and I will show you a little something else that I had going on with the grapes while the rest of the bronze is currently melting. Now, I did redo my little grape area a little bit more. I put a couple spaces between each one so I could kind of maximize the space, and then I can grab these. Simple enough, you know. I could always get like the apples and stuff, but as I said, in the Betweenlands, I don't want this food to rot, and these should be just fine. I also, of course, have my apples spread everywhere out here so I can get more apples if I need to. But in this case, it should work pretty good. On top of that, if you take bone meal, you could just sit here with a stack of bone meal and just bone meal the heck out of it and get yourself almost a stack of grapes if you so desired, which gives like 1.5%. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's considering that you can just find bone meal laying around in bone block quantities. All right, and there we go. I now have a whole lot of bronze stuff plus a little bit of copper. Now, if I take this over here to the tools station, I can then just click everything into place, and it should work out just fine. Bronze pickaxe, which is going to be dense and well established, so it's going to be very durable and have the mining level of diamond. Plus, it's got a pretty decent mining speed, so it's a good all-around tool. Now, on top of this, we've got our shovel, same thing. Got our axe, same thing. I could have made a mattock, but in this case, I was just like, you know, I'm just going to make the traditional ones. I always make the mattock. And I think that the commas are actually restricted at this point. I was thinking about a longsword, but I can't block with a longsword, and that kind of breaks my entire cacti strategy. Now, I do have something else in mind here, and that is for the bow. If I were to make some more parts here, grab another bow limb, take this cobble out of here, I can make a cactus bow limb as well, which is actually pretty good. I mean, it's got a decent pullback speed. At least that's why I was choosing it. Let me put some of this away and put some of this away. I do need some string, though, and I should have some lying around in here. There we go, some string. And any of the strings for tinkers really don't make a difference. So, you know, like this string here. If I have the... Where is it? There we go, part builder. If I choose the string, I just need to put some of any kind of string in it. I get bowstring. So there we go, one of those. Any of the different colors all give you the same effect. So it doesn't really make a difference why you have them there. Now, tool station, make myself one of these. And if you don't like the cactus on top, you can switch it around so that you've got it like this. Actually, I think I might do that. Why not? No, it looks kind of weird. I'm going to do it the other way. Yeah, we're going to do cactus on top. There we go. I now have a bow, and I can still use the standard flint arrows, which should be pretty useful, actually. I've got about a stack's worth. I think I might have some more ammunition in my red pack. Yeah, I've got a few stacks here, so I should be good to go, regardless. And of course, I've got my sentient swords put away because they're not going to be of any use in the Betweenlands. Well, at least they will be in a reduced capacity. They'll still suffer from the same problems that the other tools would. And in fact, my quartz Aot will as well. So I could put all these things down here, put some of this in place, and I could have my slime sink. Now, the good thing is I'll have the Sigil of the Blood Lamp, which will allow me to, well, just advance without any kind of issues of sight and seeing things in a difficult manner. Now, the question remains, will I be spending a lot of time in the Betweenlands? Most likely, but not today. I don't think I'll be spending a ton of time there because the objective here is to get the smeltery up and running. And that only requires a blue gem, which shouldn't be too bad, actually. In fact, I could probably just run around over here, see if I can get over to it. I did adjust it slightly. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember last time. It was a little bit kind of, I don't know, let's put some lights up the top of the tree here, make it a little bit prettier. You probably remember it having like these little spidery limbs off the edge. Those are gone. I did cut this stuff down, and thankfully with an axe, it does actually harvest portal frame, and then I could place it down. But while I was doing that, of course, a creeper snuck up behind me and blew up some of it. So that was kind of a thing that happened. A little bit annoying, but oh well. So let's just go inside and get ready for our transition to the Betweenlands. It seems very ominous, this sound. So let's go through, stand in the portal, and everything should start getting all wavy. And here we are, in the Betweenlands. And we also get Dank World. Oh, interesting. So I got multiple, casting a nugget. The Between located Druid Circle and Swamp. Oh, okay, that one finally kicked in. That was the one that I was wondering what happened. And then step through the portal tree. Woohoo! Which, yeah, first thing I'm going to want to do is get my book and have a look. Where are we? There we go. Have a look. It's in a book. I'm going to put a little portal symbol, and we're going to call this Portal Tree. It's going to be very important because it is extremely easy to get lost in the Betweenlands. Yeah, that's very much a thing. So you can see I now have a new meter in the bottom right there. That is my... Oh, this is interesting. Everything's going to need to load in. That is my corrosion. And of course it's raining. So it's going to actually cause me, like these things here are puddles. That is the equivalent of a zombie here, which is going to be a fun thing. Hello, Swamp Hag. How are you? Say hi to my shield. There we go. And so, yeah, something else attacked me from behind, but as you can see, the shield seems to be working all right. I'm getting a little bit of lag as new chunks are being generated. So once this Swamp Hag comes up to me, I'll probably be okay for a bit. I've got a lot of stuff generating nearby, and the rain doesn't really help much. You can try sleeping here, but it's not really going to do anything. So let's try lighting things up nearby at the very least, and hopefully this will allow the generating of bad guys nearby, like the Swamp Hags, to lessen slightly. Alright, so I think I've got my settings somewhat managed out. Yes, the Betweenlands is a very heavy mod, especially when it's raining and it's in a mod pack that has like 400 plus mods in it. It's going to be a bit ridiculous, and this is going to be a pathway down into the underground, which we're going to need to take. But I also see that there are some trees nearby. We've got your standard ones. I'm looking specifically for that kind over there because it's going to have anti-corrosion items that we're going to need. In fact, am I standing on a bit of something? No, there's poison ivy you're going to have to watch out for. Just about everything in this mod will try to kill you. So that's a thing. And in fact, we've got, what is this? Mud right here. Definitely a thing to watch out for because it's so slow. So very slow to walk on. And in fact, I don't know if I can get over to this thing easily or not. I'm probably going to have to take shortcuts. Okay, I made it over here, and thankfully because I've got Tinker Tools, I can then harvest this stuff properly and easily at least. And I can just climb up here, harvest a whole bunch of this, and get sap. Now, the tree sap is what will actually prevent you from dying. Because if your corrosion meter gets too high, you're going to be less effective. You're not going to be able to basically modify or, well, live long enough. It's kind of like another hunger meter of sorts. But if it gets too low, bad things happen. So I now have 22 balls of sap, which is good. I'm going to need that And more importantly, well, this doesn't actually affect your nutrition, but I now have a sap tree sapling, and I've got some rotten food. So yeah, any of your vanilla stuff will probably turn into rotten food. Some of the items that are going to drop from the mobs in here may also turn into rotten food, because they'll be dropping things like some kind of meat or bones or something that is like more in the overworld than it is in the Betweenlands due to SevTech. That's some big wood, yes. I have just found this massive, massive tree. This is probably one of the things not helping my my frame rate at the moment, but it is very impressive nonetheless. Can I like shoot a few light bulbs up at this thing and maybe light it up so it's a little more visible? Oh, this thing is tremendous. Now, I know what a lot of you are probably thinking. Last episode I asked for your suggestions on a base design, and you're probably thinking right now, oh my gosh, Vallen, you need to make a base out of this tree. Problem is, this dimension is somewhat laggy as it is. If I were to actually make a base here as well and add in the lag of all the machines and other things, it just wouldn't work. It would be a very swift ending to the series. So I'm not opposed to a potential tree base if you have such a desire, but it's not going to be in the Betweenlands, and it's not going to be this tree. But if you have other suggestions, I am still open to that. I have not like closed any kind of potential thoughts people might have on that. Ow, ow, darn stingy nettles. Get out of here. So if you do have suggestions for it, please let me know. In the meantime, though, I'm thinking I might head down into the underground. I see a little dude over here. Let's try taking this guy out. A little blood snail. They're very annoying. They'll latch onto you and just kind of drain your life essence. Besides, going downstairs should make things a little bit nicer because I'll be, well, less in the rain and more likely to just run around and explore. Ah, this is what I'm looking for. So if you have torches, which I don't even know if I have any torches, like regular torches. There we go. I think I need to get this for an achieve. Let's put this down. Put that down, and there you go. Because you're in a very moist environment, it breaks. But you can always relight it. You know, just put it in the furnace or on a stone grill. Relight this. For now, though, I think I'll see if I can... I can't put it back in there. You know, I don't even need it anymore. I just throw it on the ground. Don't even care, man. But this, the sulfur ore. You can use this with a stick to make sulfur torches, which is going to be very useful. It's also going to be useful for a lot of other things, like fuel in different kinds of tools and machines in the Betweenlands. Not necessarily machines, but think like witchery and stuff, where you can brew up all sorts of stuff, and this is going to be your coal substitute. And of course, I'm getting XP, bonus XP, every time I harvest any of this stuff because my Tinker's Pick is well established with that copper additive to it, which is giving me XP nonstop all the time. It's just really nice to have an infinite, practically infinite torch, and to be able to climb on walls while I'm down here. This is nice. Now, the underground is also very dangerous. You will still find many mobs and other things down here, so don't think that you're going to be any safer than you were upstairs. In fact, you might be, slightly, in some ways, but you will get lost very easily. And there are many ways and mechanics that you can use in order to do so, but it's kind of against what I'm looking for. At this point, I do want to explore in the underground a bit. I know I'm supposed to be getting a blue gem, which is going to be underwater, but it also isn't going to hurt for me to explore around and see if I can find some other materials while I'm here, because I would like to have some other materials. Now, the deeper down you go, the more interesting things you'll find. For instance, this here, slimy bone ore, which you can actually mine it and get bones, which act like, here you go, slimy bones, which also those swamp hags will drop, and you can use them for tools and armor, which is great in the Betweenlands, but I'm alright with what I've got. I mean, it's going to be reduced efficiency because it's not the Betweenlands armor, but we also have stuff like this. Summerite, which is kind of the equivalent of like an iron, and you can make buckets and different armors and tools from this as well. So this is going to be very useful as we go too. Haha, and here we have our first victim, a white. These guys, if they haven't noticed you yet, and they look like they're sleeping, you can sneak up to them and then get a good attack on them. If you don't do enough damage to them, like you do a bunch, but they're close to low health, their head will come separate from their body, and they will attack you and swarm around you. And then you'll just have to not panic and just swing your weapon straight ahead, and you'll eventually kill it. It's just a matter of, well, not panicking, because that's what I did the first time I ran into a white. I think I did die. I might have. Either way, in this mod, basically, in the Betweenlands mod, you just need to not panic, and you should be okay. If you can keep a level head, then that's like a good portion of any battle that you run into. Because some of these creatures might be more resistant than others. Some of them will be more challenging to try and overcome, but it doesn't mean that they're just going to instantly kill you either. And something else of note is that just about everything you run into, this hanger, the moss, the stone itself, almost everything in this mod is basically going to be useful in some way, shape, or form if you're exploring the Betweenlands. So it's something to keep in mind, is that, yeah, if you throw things away, you're probably throwing away something that's going to be very useful to you at some point later on. Aha! Now here's some more ore that I was looking for. Octine ore. The stuff here is kind of like an in-between of iron and blaze powder. It's very burnable stuff. It's hot. It will if you make weapons out of it, it will tend to basically just make fire aspect like results from the tools and weapons that you make it with. But it's a little too hot for you to actually make armor from. You can use a shield with it, but it's only going to be practical for tools and weapons. There we go. This is what I wanted to show you, is that this will potentially spin around you, attacking you. And in my case, I'm spiky, so therefore it just instantly died. But that's pretty much what it does. The head comes off the body, it spins around you, and starts trying to attack. Haha. As we get down lower and lower, we'll end up coming to pitstone, which actually is good. That means that you're going to start getting into better materials. For instance, I'm finding more octine. I'm going to find less of the sermerite, which is going to be good and bad, because I want octine for now. But it's also going to mean that you'll find, or have a better chance of finding, things like treasure and other mobs, and maybe even mob spawners. So you may find some extra stuff. Now, there we go, rock bottom. I got an achieve for that one as well. It's getting a bit dark down here. Let's kind of light things up. And there is an underground, I'm sure you've noticed already, there is a fog that kind of generates in this area. Even though I've got a light source there, you can see it still will keep things hidden. The only way to avoid that is with like some kind of dark vision or night vision type spell or effect. Or perhaps a brew or potion, which you actually, there is a very heavy brewing mechanic in the Betweenlands that I hope to cover in a bit by bit in the not too distant future. Now, if you find something like this down here, a section of smooth stone in with the pitstone, don't remove it, because it's probably going to turn into a valuable ore in the future that you may need. So there's a little something as well, because you will still find other, hey, look at this, other areas that you may be able to harvest. I found a whole bunch of gold. Aha! A white's heart. Those are very valuable items as well. They can be used to recharge things like life crystals and so on, which can also be used to power and purify and unlock different things in the future. Okay, so here we have a few differences and a few more items here. Now, this is stagnant water. This stuff's very dangerous. You don't want to go in that at all. It's going to hurt you a lot. Your corrosion level is going to increase like a wither effect on you, and you will quickly succumb to it. But these here, scabbist ore, is used to purify your equipment and items that have started taking corrosion damage. Now, this stuff here, being tinkers, doesn't actually take corrosion damage. It's why I've actually got it, and using it in this case. But if you do need to purify things, you'll need a purifier, but this can also prevent proactively any kind of, well, corrosive things from happening. I'm just gonna dig in here and get a bunch of this stuff while I can. Now this is an example of regular water, which you can go under, and is actually going to be somewhat, I don't know, tempting to die in. Allow me to actually place down a little safety area that I can get back up on. Otherwise, if I were to have fallen in this water area, bad things could happen. In fact, I want to make this well lit so I can easily find it. Because once I go down, you're not going to find a lot of mobs or enemies down here under the water, typically. It's possible you might, but it's also going to be very slow going, and you may or may not have any luck finding things underwater. That's a very long dark tunnel that leads nowhere. My air is already almost gone. There is an armor that you can actually get that will help you to explore in or under water, and that's the Lurker skin armor, which is required from Lurkers, which look like giant crocodiles. But for now, I'm not going to find any of them down here, just more of these guys at the moment. Now there are some things I'm looking for in the water, and I also see that there are some fish. These guys are really mean and rude, and you're going to want to kill them if at all possible. Anglerfish. Very difficult to hit in the water because they're so darn fast, and they hit really hard. But what I'm looking for are little rings, white rings on either these like underwater spikes or on some of the standard areas underneath here. If I see any, I'll be sure to show you guys. These guys here are just really small annoyances, little chiramaws. Those guys, though, they can drop a very valuable ingredient because the foods that you eat in the Betweenlands actually have kind of like a spice of life equivalent. Oh, that was great. Nicely done. Where you can get tired of those foods over time, and therefore will probably need to refresh that every so often. And by eating a chirama wing, which may have dropped somewhere in the water here, I don't know where. Maybe even I picked it up? No, I didn't. Then, boy, they're just falling from above, aren't they? Then you can reset all progress of those the foods, therefore being able to continue on without having to, well, you know, suffer with the diminishing returns from the foods that you have. There we go. There's a chirama wing, which by eating those, yeah, anything will taste better after eating this. But if you do have issues where something becomes less palatable that is a Betweenlands food type, you can reset it with those. Aha! And here, the most valuable material that I know of, Vallenite. Yes, it is named Vallenite. No, it is not named Vallenite for me, but it is the equivalent of diamond level armor and materials that you can make weapons, armor, all sorts of cool stuff out of, and I highly recommend you get it if you can find it. And here we have an example of a gemmed creature. It basically has one of the gems that we need already applied to itself, if not any kind of armor it may have equipped, which is something that you can apply to most armor types, and therefore getting these middle gems, as they're referred to, can be quite beneficial to any armor set. Aha! This is what I'm looking for right here, and hopefully I'll be able to mine this. It could be a bit difficult to actually mine underwater. Yeah, I'm going to start drowning. But there we go, I got what I needed. It should float to the top, and I've got too many items in my inventory. Get rid of the angler meat and pick up this, a life crystal, which is very, very key. Oh my gosh, they are very valuable items. I recommend that you get as many of those as you can as well. Just about everything else in this mod. Ah, no, this is a problem. This is a big problem. There's a white that latched itself onto a nearby enemy. So therefore, if you're fighting a white in a group with other enemies besides whites, you're going to want to be very cautious and maybe even back off. Because, yeah, those creatures work really well together. It starts shooting little rays at you, and you pretty much will die very quickly. Cool. More Vallenite, which actually, yeah, I did mention it's the diamond equivalent in this mod. It's also very, very good, and quite possibly the strongest armor type that you could make at this point in SevTech, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken on that, but yeah, it's really good stuff. Aha, this is an example of one that, ow, I'm being attacked by fish, doggone it, of one of those guys, one of the white's heads that's unified with one of the zombies. So therefore, if at all possible, try and take them out from a distance so that you don't get hit by all these little white laser beams shooting around them. Alright, so this is something that you also need to watch out for. This is actually like a spawning room. That is a mob spawner. It's not your traditional looking mob spawner either. It's more, well, the Betweenlands. And these are little termites, guys that might attack you at random. Oh gosh, I'm getting attacked from all sides here. Specifically in some breakable pots or things like that. In this case, it's just going to be from a spawner. Get out of here. Oh gosh, they're very hard to hit because they're small hitboxes and they move around quite frequently. In order to dispatch them, you'll probably need to take out the spawner, which hopefully, oh gosh, I can do without too much problem. There we go. I was able to get that spawner done. Yes, you could turn it into some kind of harvesting mechanic where you farm these guys for stuff. And the glow shrooms here actually give off light. If you do need a temporary light source, the bulb cap mushrooms work really nicely, and you'll find them often around these really big mushrooms. Okay, so I have found a legendary thing here. This is a harlequin toad. These are most often not found underground like I have found them just now. Harlequin toads are the horses of the Betweenlands. They take the wings of dragonflies as payment. You'll have to feed them a lot, probably like a half a stack of those in order to tame one of these guys. But they are very cool. They move on just about all land types along the surface, water, whatever. They're really useful, and I highly recommend that you try and get one of these as a means of transportation, if at all possible, in the Betweenlands. But as I don't have any of the above ground items like dragonfly wings to tempt him with, I'm going to have to pass up on it and just continue on as I have been. Aha! And this is one of the other things that you can potentially find down at the very lower levels. Besides things like Vallenite, you might find some ruins, which may also have little treasure pots in them. You got to be careful though, because each treasure pot has a chance of actually having a little termite guy in it. In this case, yep, there is. Little termite. But you can get all sorts of crazy loot in some of these things, like angry pebbles. These are really interesting. They're throwable bombs, but you have to be careful because they can destroy the terrain, or treasure in the most important cases. They can be very damaging though. And of course, I got a bunch of ingots and an item scroll. Ooh, something that we'll have to check out shortly. So while I could spend a very, very long time exploring underground and just constantly getting more loot and items and whatnot, I think I'm going to probably have to call it at some point. But before I do, I did notice that there was a little something here, a little new kind of underground ruins that I hadn't experienced before. That's the one right behind me that I figure I will check that out before we end it. There we go. Now that I have them dispatched. Oh, it looks like it's some kind of, I don't know, crypt or tomb. I mean, every time that I move away from it, it says I'm re-entering the caverns, but if I go in here, there's a whole bunch of pots underneath, which means good loot. So I'm actually going to use my sword to break these things, just because this means I'll have it in my hand, ready to be attacked. Uh-oh. Here's the thing though, my sword suddenly just disappeared while I was breaking that. So don't do that. Definitely don't do that. I hear all sorts of bad things nearby now. Oh! Ah! And I'm gonna have to just use my regular materials at this point. Oh dear, this is not gonna go well. I still at least have my bow. I don't know where my sword went. It's not like it was very expensive to make, but I guess I could still punch these guys with this thing and still use my shield at the very least. So I have that going for me, but I don't know where my sword went. I don't think that it broke because it still had some durability, but it just kind of disappeared when I broke that last one of those. So I might have to report that as a bug? Maybe? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But I've got lots of new foods that I can eat as well, like jam donuts. These things are pretty good. There's many other items as well that can be eaten, but for now, it's rather sad that I lost my sword, especially when I'm all the way down here. So I think this is another reason why I should probably end it. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If so, be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, be sure to spread the mischief to others if you think they'll enjoy this mischief too. And until next time, folks, I'll see ya. No worries, folks. I found my sword. It apparently was still on my hotbar. It just disappeared from my inventory view for a moment there.